Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Carl Tart.
I'm Jackie's Neal.
And I'm Edgar Mobley's here.
And we are the host of a new show called Culture Kings on How Stuff Works. We cover a whole range of topics on this show, but one of the things that we talk about the most is sports because we love them. Jackie, what's the sports opinion you have?
The Cubs are the best team of all time.
That's ridiculous. Edgar?
Kevin Durant is the greatest player of all time.
Nonsense. My favorite basketball player is LeBron James. He's the king of the world, and we'll get into that on Culture Kings. Download it wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere. Just listen to it, damn it.
This is the best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here. I continue to own it. I'm going to continue to own it because two weeks ago.
What are you owning?
How crappy the weather is.
Yeah, you.
It's all on me.
You came in here. Attaboy, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, so Mike. When it's me, you guys are ready, but anytime it happens to one of them.
Yeah, there's a quick button there.
Typical.
You got a nice collared shirt on today, and you don't even turn your mic on.
You look respectable.
I don't understand what
this is. You have a job interview later?
Look respectable,
against me.
Just didn't act professional.
Correct.
There you go.
It's all a package deal.
And you're right. You, and I don't believe in the golf gods and the weather gods and all that.
You have to now.
If you want to believe in that stuff, you certainly angered Mother Nature by saying, oh, yeah. Yeah, what'd you say it at the end of March or beginning, right at the beginning of April?
Right end of March, we had one last snowstorm. I said, "This is over.
That's it. It's done. All the spring now.
Pull up all the stakes, the snow stakes out of the driveway.
That's what it was. That was you really spitting in their face.
That was it right there.
So
and you know who's really mad at you? All the people who ran the Boston Marathon yesterday.
It's all my fault, so I apologize. I apologize to the folks in Green Bay who had like 8 feet of snow.
They did.
So I apologize to that.
That's all on you.
It is. It's all on me. And those people that ran the marathon yesterday, are you kidding me?
Crazy.
I would not have walked 5 steps in that, and they're out there 26.2 miles.
The only time I can remember weather like that is, Mike, were you a junior or senior in high school?
Senior in high
school.
school.
Jake was a junior. They played a game in rain like that, and it was like just above freezing, so it just wasn't snow. It was like 33 degrees.
Which is actually worse.
Driving sideways rain, and it was basically only family members because we were contractually obligated to be in the stands for that game. It was miserable, and at least it was over in like 2 hours.
It was over in 2 hours. You have halftime to go inside for a little bit. You can
Which
change.
Actually makes it worse.
Yeah.
It does in some sense, but you can change certain articles of clothing up just to relieve some of that. And at the end of the day, you're not asked to move quite as much. You're covering 26 miles in wet shoes and wet clothing. The amount of awful friction involved in that.
The chafing was off the chart.
I can't fathom it. So those people are all officially superheroes in my book. You are all demigods if you finish that race. If you even attempted that race yesterday. Because it is in absolutely unfathomable conditions.
Put your capes on, put your masks on. You are superheroes. We have a couple of really cool stories we'll get to in a little bit about that Boston Marathon. But boy, oh boy, what ugly weather. And those people running through it was just really, really incredible.
I think I remember 4 years ago when Teddy ran it for the first time, Teddy Bruschi, it was 80 degrees.
Oh.
And it was 34 and sideways rain and wind. But to your story about when Junior and Jake played at a game, there was a lacrosse game we went to on Memorial Day, and it was 39 degrees. That's just
cold.
Can't do it.
No, thank you.
Can't do
Very
it.
difficult.
So we'll get into more of the Boston Marathon and some of the amazing stories, the amazing runners, and some of the stuff that happened there, including the winner on the women's side, first time since 1985. A U.S. woman claimed the title, so congratulations. We'll get into that, but let's start with what we normally do.
It's time for
Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not,
It's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
All right, we start with the NBA playoffs. Klay Thompson scored 24 of his 31 points after halftime as the Warriors rallied to beat the Spurs and take a 2-0 series lead. Thompson, 10 of 14. Let's do the math. That's 71.4% from three-point range this series. His best three-point percentage in a two-game span since March of 2016.
Yeah, he was somewhat ridiculous, and he wasn't even a leading scorer. Kevin Durant ended up being the leading scorer with 32 points. But what Klay Thompson is doing, that's why we talk about Golden State, because they have so many weapons. One is out in Steph Curry, others pick up the slack. And this was the year we all thought, could they be had because of how they're going into the playoffs? They just know how to answer the bell. They have the talent to do it. Now, a lot of that, look to the Spurs side of it. LaMarcus Aldridge played extremely well. What do you have? He had 34 points in this one, but no Kawhi Leonard. We don't think they're going to be this big, tough opponent for Golden State. We're all waiting for the Golden State and Houston Rockets matchup, but I'll stick by what I said earlier. You know, Steph will be back by then. These guys know how to work through when one or the other is injured, and they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, we've seen Clay do this before in Steph's absence on the big stage in the playoffs, and just the remarkable efficiency. He said over 71% from three-point, perfect from the free throw line, and only 2 turnovers in 79 minutes of game action in the last 2 games. So they're protecting the ball against the team in San Antonio that last night battled like hell. I mean, you saw all of that championship pedigree and pop there. They just don't have the horses for this one. So that was about as close as I think it's going to get.
Well, that's the question in this series. Is it telling us more about the Spurs or it telling us more about the Warriors? Because let's be honest, whatever the Spurs have been in the past, they're just not there right now because their show pony isn't there.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the Spurs being the Spurs. Now, their regular season, what it wasn't normally was, but they had some injuries and they just didn't play as well. But the bottom line for a team like that, any LeBron team, is we know what it is. It's get to the finals and win the championship. And the Spurs are usually, or the Golden State Warriors are usually ready to do that.
If you were the Spurs, you could get over on a younger team. You could do what the Miami Heat did last night and get over on a young team like the 76ers. You're not going to do that against a champion like them. They're looking across on the other sideline and seeing a lot of themselves from the past in the Golden State Warriors.
Did you just say, if you look at what the Heat did against the Sixers last night?
Why, yes, it did.
You are good.
Off the top.
Because we continue in Off the Top. Led by Dwayne Wade, the Heat defeated the 76ers 113-103 to even the series and snapped Philadelphia's 17-game winning streak, which was, to be fair, 16 games in the regular season and in the first playoff game as well.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade coming off the bench at 36 years and 89 days old, the second oldest reserve with at least 25 points and 5 rebounds in a playoff game since starts were first tracked back in 1970. So again, off the bench, he scores those 28 points. But for Miami, I look at the whole, and any sport with that, the break in the periods, the halftime, you always look at how do you come out a halftime. Go back to game 1 of these two teams, and Miami actually had the lead, I believe, on Philadelphia, 60-56 at halftime in game 1. They got outscored 34-18 in the third quarter. 34-18, so that's how they came out. This game, they were outscored again, but 33-30. So they came out better in the third quarter and more aggressive in the third quarter, and that's one of the first things that Dwayne Wade mentioned after the game. He said a lot of that was about how we let the game get away from us in game 1. We stayed in it in game 2 because of that third quarter.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you get as a veteran player is you understand situational aspects of sports better than a lot of the other guys around you. And for Dwayne Wade, a guy who, I mean, we thought this guy's knees were gone when LeBron James was back in Miami. They were nursing him through the regular season just to try and get him back to the finals and hope you get a few games out of him. So to see this in what could be his final season, to see certainly on the back end what seemed like a nice reward for him getting ready at home. His wife Gabrielle Union tweeted out after the game, "Now come on home, baby, I got something for you."
What's that?
Well,
putting it out for the world to see there right now. No shame to their game.
That's what we do in social media now. Put it out there for everybody to see, huh?
Respect the hustle. Congrats on the sex, guys.
Respect. well, yes,
there you go.
Listen, hey. You play well, you are rewarded. We say that all the time. So congratulations.
Couple of kids in love.
There you go. Dwayne Wade turned back the clock and was in the zone last night. Hey-oh. So brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Off the top.
I just don't think we're talking about this enough. The Golden Knights, expansion team in the NHL, look to sweep their first ever playoff series when they take on the Kings at 10:30 Eastern tonight. We, of course, will be up and watching. But they are doing things that just no one expected them to do, and they're doing it very, very well.
Yeah, really incredible. Looking to become the first franchise NHL history to sweep a postseason series in its inaugural season. Marc-Andre Fleury, their goalkeeper, has been playing great. 65 career postseason wins, tied with Dominik Hasek for 11th. But the story, I mean, the players, the story, what's going on, the support of the fans there. Again, it's been incredible. They set record after record this year. And now the expectation, so it's like, how well will you do? How many wins will you get? Oh, you're doing better. They keep exceeding expectations. So when you know what happens there, then more is expected of you. Well, okay, you've reached that pinnacle and you're going to the next one. Well, now the expectation is to get there. So they could end the season right now and you'd say, still, what an incredible success. But I think in a lot of the players' mind, it would be, no. I mean, we've gone this far. We're good enough. We think we can go a lot further.
Yeah, you get to that point and buy in. And really, it always depends on your group because most championship caliber teams, you get to the start of the season and this is what you see for yourself. But there's always got to be some show and tell, and especially for an expansion team to have to come together the way that they did and find that out over the course of this. I'm sure everyone's kind of turned the page on that. Even the fan base has got to be looking at this point and say, wait a minute, we got a really good hockey team, and we've been seeing it fourth in attendance through this season. We've been bearing witness to this, so let's ride this thing until the wheels come off.
Well, you know what they're saying in Vegas all about this? Let's do that hockey. That's exactly what
do
they're
that.
saying.
I thought it was whatever happens in Vegas
stays in Vegas. No, whatever happens.
They're going everywhere.
Well, exactly. It doesn't matter where they go. They're taking it with them, but they are doing that hockey, and listen, it's a great story. And we'll see see how far they can ride this thing into the postseason.
Off the top.
And then there's our guy, Shohei Ohtani, making his third start on the mound as he looks to improve to 3-0 this season when he faces the Red Sox. The problem there is he'll be facing the Red Sox.
Yeah, he will. That's exactly right. So he was supposed to face the Royals, but that game Sunday got postponed. The Royals are not good at scoring runs. The Red Sox are tied for second in the majors in runs per game. So this will be a huge test for him, a guy who already has 3 home runs, looking for 3 wins, his third win as well. So, again, a great story that I think really grew because the spring training went so poorly that he's already exceeded that. And now it's like, okay, this is what we were kind of wondering if we were going to get. But now he's going up against a real quality opponent here in the Red Sox.
This is another one. You want to talk about where the tipping point lies, where all of a sudden you're going up against one of the best opponents in the young league year right now. This is the moment for Shohei, especially cross-country, one of the bigger market teams in the Boston Red Sox. All of a sudden, if this kid goes and shows up and shows out here, we're dealing with officially phenomenon status now. Has a chance to what did you just say? Become the first player in MLB history
ever.
to
3
win,
home runs,
3 home runs,
3
3
wins.
So when you're on the
April.
cusp of those first and have the chance to do it against what has been one of the winningest franchises in the 2000s and 2010s in Major League Baseball.
And by the way, by winning percentage, these are the 2 best teams in baseball.
Correct.
Right now, the Mets are right there. They only have 3 losses as well, but the winning percentage is a little lower because of wins. So, I mean, forgetting the individual performance here, which we're not going to because that's what we're talking about. From the team aspect, these are pretty good 2 good teams. As you know, we're always thinking about the Red Sox. Are they battling the Yankees, Toronto here at this point? And can the Angels, knock off the Astros, who are your World Series champs?
Well, the interesting thing here is what Shohei is going to be doing tonight, and as you said, who he's going up against, which would be, as you said, the Red Sox. But the other thing, we may have found the one thing that may be Shohei's weakness. He said he wishes the home crowd would be a little quieter.
Yeah.
A little quieter when he's in there. He likes to get locked in and be ready to roll.
Got to learn to clear the mechanism. Got to have him watch for love of the game for a little bit. Just clear the mechanism.
You know what you need to do is tell him.
Did you go full Billy Chappell on us right there?
Absolutely.
Nicely done.
You know what you need to do?
Yeah.
Tell him to get over it if this isn't golf.
Yeah, that's a fair point. You know what else he needs to do? Just keep doing what he's doing.
I want you to Shohei the way.
That'll never get old.
Never.
For the 3 of us.
And we look forward to those of you that don't like it to tweet and tell us you don't like it because when you do that, you know what we're going to do?
Fuel to our fire.
This is what we're going to do. Let's read a tweet. I don't like when you guys play that. Oh, really?
I want you to Shohei the way.
Just gives us our mojo, gives us our motivation.
Now I'm also kind of rooting, since you mentioned golf, that people will just start shouting mashed potatoes during his windup.
It's over the fence.
Exactly. It's in the hole. It's no. So we'll see what happens. Shohei tonight going up against the Boston Red Sox, and we'll see if the crowd is quiet for Shohei Ohtani. Okay, the crowd was pretty quiet last night in Philadelphia because they experienced something they hadn't experienced in a long time. That would be a loss after 17 straight games, one in the postseason, the first of the series against the Heat, and then, of course, 16 straight to end the regular season. But that wasn't the only thing that was going on with the Sixers' loss. After the game, Joel Embiid, who, of course, did not play, as he's continuing to recover from that cracked orbital bone in his eye, went to his Instagram page and tweeted out, "Effing sick and tired of being babied."
Only he didn't say effing.
He actually spelled it out the way you would not want to see it spelled out. He said the word.
Yes, he
did.
The word. Yes, he did.
So anyway, obviously this was right after the game. And as you might imagine, because it happened right after the game.
You said he went to his Instagram page and tweeted, by the way?
Did I say that? Did I cross-pollinate?
You did.
He went to his Instagram page and Instagram.
Insted.
I don't even know what the verb is for that.
Instagram.
What did he do?
Did he gram it?
Did he gram it?
He storied this.
Yeah,
this was a story.
Okay. Brett grabbed the mic.
Oh, God.
Jeez. Here we go.
I was just going to say it in your ear that he put it on his story.
Put it on his story.
Then he just called me out for grabbing the mic.
He storied it?
Yeah, he put it on his Instagram story.
Put it on his Instagram story.
We have to shorten it. It has to be a short.
Not as much of a commitment as a full gram.
He storied it.
Well,
because it goes away in a day.
Just go ahead and give out your handle, Brett. We know you want
Couldn't
to.
a full gram get you for distribution? I mean,
hey
now, come on.
Cut off the caffeine and sugar for the big man. So anyway,
I don't think it's caffeine and sugar.
Brett Brown was asked about his Instagram story, and this was Brett's response.
Joel just went on social media, and I'll give you the PC version of what he said. He said he's sick and tired of being babied. What has he said to you in terms of frustration with what's going on with him right now, whether that's just not being able to practice, play, whatever?
He just wants to play basketball. He wants to be with his team. He wants to play in front of the fans. He wants to see this through. And when he's not able to do that, he gets frustrated. And I respect his frustration. It's born out of competitiveness, and it's born out of him wanting to be with his team. And so the medical side, the different reasons, I'm not going to go there, but I do know the spirit in which he delivers that tweet that you just talked about reflects my conversations with him, that is completely driven out of team competitiveness. I want to play basketball, that type of flavor more than anything.
By the way, Brett Brown could only have grown up outside of Boston.
It's just fantastic, right? Isn't it?
South Portland, Maine, I think is where he's from.
Yeah, just fantastic. And listen, I get it. I get it from the standpoint of the athlete being frustrated. Do we like the message that was delivered? Well, basically, this is today. This is how the millennials. It's true. It's how you communicate, right?
By the way,
communicate.
See, my mistake is Brett's fault because he said tweet. So I was going with him.
So Brett sabotaged you to get on air.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew it.
Brett Brown, not Brett Prada.
No, Brett Brown.
Oh, I thought. Okay, I acknowledge one Brett around here. Sorry.
That's because he's Brettomology. But going back to your point.
Again, I understand the frustration from an athlete. Without question, he wants to be out there, and he'd be out there if it was his choice. But it's not his choice right now. A lot of times you protect the player from himself. You just wish at times, that even though I know this is the communication level of the athlete and people of that age today, you still wish you'd, because now you throw your team under the bus. Why are you babying me? Just take that breath. You'd rather not see that story on Instagram. But, when I see it nowadays, I still don't get like the old man on the lawn because I'm like, I know this is how these guys communicate. And I think the people receiving that or reading that, like a Brett Brown, would be like, okay, this is how they communicate. He's a frustrated athlete. So I really don't think a ton about this.
Well, the issue here is this is why you have doctors to protect athletes from themselves. Because he thinks he's fine. He thinks he's 100% ready to roll. But that's not his call. Whether it's in football, basketball, baseball, the doctors and the medical staff on most of these teams are normally to protect the player from themselves. Because I'm sure he's saying, I feel fine. But the doctors have to look at it from, you may feel okay, but let's just say you get an elbow up there one more time. Then we're talking about a bone fragment that could go into your eye and your career could be over. So you have to have some sort of sense of a wall of protection from these guys because they all think they're superhuman.
Sure.
You guys that way when you played, you all thought I can go through anything, right?
And you try to.
Yeah, and you want to for the right reasons.
Yeah,
he has the right reasons.
Yes,
This guy has embraced this city, the process, all the things involved that were used to slight Philadelphia and the 76ers for so long. He took and repurposed and he made theirs. He is a big reason why they're there where they are now. And he's also a big reason why they're going to be a force to be reckoned with going forward. And that's the process you've got to guard against. Even now, when it feels good in the here and now to think, man, people are talking, we can make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. We think we might have that in us. You got to remember, you need this guy around. He's already been a guy like the rest of your stars that have had injury issues in the past. You got to make sure everything's good, right, and orderly going forward.
To that point, and how you understand the process, we'll get into this story a little bit later. There was a football player, an NFL guy, who decided to walk away for that very reason, sort of the opposite way, but it's about thinking about what is best for the team going forward.
Right.
We'll get into that a little bit later, but our Ramona Shelburne spoke with Embiid after the Instagram story, or before, and offer some context on the process of this injury.
I spoke to Joel Embiid before Game 2 and asked him if he was getting any closer to returning to the court. And he said, if it was up to me, I would play, but they won't let me play. He was smiling when he said that because it was before Game 2. Afterwards, when the Sixers lost, he expressed his frustration at not being on the court in the social media posts. Now, just after 1 o'clock Eastern time, he expounded on his frustrations. He said, I promised the city the playoffs, and I'm not on the court. I may not be Thursday either. I wish more than anything that I was out there. I just want the green light to play. Now, I'm told that there are still medical hurdles that Joel Embiid has to clear in order to get back. So while he's close, there are still issues he has to work through before he returns to the court.
Yeah, and those things will not be his call, and that's something he's got to understand.
And again, whenever you hear about a player, an injury, and you talk to a coach about it or something, they say, well, you know what, we asked the player. And I'm like, that's the last thing you do is ask the player. And, 99, I can't say all of them because some may say I'm not ready to go. 99% of the players are like, yeah, good to go, even when they're not good to go. So you're right. It's got to be up to the doctors. But that gets a whole other question of team doctors. Who has their pay? Who are they getting paid from? That's why one of the reasons the whole Kawhi Leonard situation, he's not dealing with the team doctors, but other doctors as well. So it can get muddled a little bit.
Yeah, this is always, by the way, the difference of how you treat stars in your franchise versus how you treat everyone else. Because if you're a role player, they're saying, you know what, you probably need to get back out on the court here sooner than later.
But again, it's all about investment and what you're willing to risk and against the possible performance. There's a sliding scale of justice. The better you are, the more you're going to get away with because your talent can be protected. But it is an interesting dynamic that you brought up.
Golic
and Wingo.
And Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. The big question for anyone that's a huge fan of The Wire is, which theme song season did you think was the best of all time?
Wow, I actually haven't thought about that. You've now killed 20 minutes of my day because now I'm going to go do this.
Well, that's funny because most people think I kill 4 hours of their day.
Pretty much.
You got off light.
Wow. Time for a little Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. If you don't mind, before we get into the marathon,
go ahead, boss.
Just for fun today, we were...
Let me just state my opinion on this. I am always pro-fun. Okay, so if it's fun, I'm in. Let's go.
We had the family group text, and it got going last night. It was actually Chris, your mother, my wife, who threw it out there about Little Debbie's.
I love the fact that you had to
clarify
who you're talking about to your son and to yourself.
I'm married to your mom, son.
Well, I mean, Mike did say dad.
That's true. That's true.
And
we go along.
Either way,
my dad.
We ended up throwing out a poll. Sydney threw it out at Sid Golic first on her Twitter site, and then I retweeted it. It was about the Little Debbie snacks. This is what we talked about, and it was the top 4, and we had a poll. What is the best Little Debbie snack? And the 4 we put up were oatmeal cream pie, Swiss roll, the Nutty Bar, or the zebra cake. We put that up last night. We have a little over 21,000 votes. It goes for another 13 hours, but if you want to jump on that, there's a lot of fun with that. A lot of people talking about it, bringing back memories of not having one of these. Some guy said, cream pie would be me, the oatmeal cream pie. I haven't had one in 24 years. I said, dude, go get one and try it again for the first time.
They're at the gas station.
I mean, they're at every gas station.
They'll live forever. I mean,
they will. It's exactly right.
They will not spoil. Let's be clear about that.
I stopped at a gas station on the way in here this morning and got all 4 of these, like 3 or 4 each of them, and just dumped them out on the table to let people try. But it's a fun little poll. It started out at Sid Golic. Again, I retweeted if you want to jump in on it. A lot of people have. It's what would you choose?
Well, I've only had one of those things.
What have you had?
The oatmeal cream pie.
You've never had a Swiss roll, a Nutty Bar, or a zebra cake?
No. I didn't even know they existed.
Burn the witch.
Wow.
Burn the witch.
That's awful.
Am I the witch in this scenario?
You're the witch in this
Why
scenario.
am I the witch?
Oh.
You ignore all those goods. Clearly, there's something.
Them. I didn't know they existed.
Clearly, something wicked this way has come, so we got to get you the hell out of here.
Wow.
All right, see ya.
Okay. Go right out
try
there.
one.
Go right out. There's a bunch of them out there on the table.
And hurry, because I'm eating them at a rate that is not sustainable for the rest of you guys.
Brett has gone through 3 Nutty Bars, I believe, already. It's been ugly.
Brett had his first Nutty Bar, and he is now on his 4th.
Yeah.
So if I'm the witch, I guess I melt with water, right?
There you go.
So that's why I didn't run the Boston Marathon yesterday.
Good.
Hey-oh, thank you very much.
Nice segue. Good job out of you.
It was... Again, if you didn't live in the East Coast and you didn't have to suffer through the weather that was going through yesterday, it was about 36 degrees and sideways rain. Teddy Bruschi, our good colleague here, who does his Teddy's team, helps people stroke awareness, has a team every year that runs the marathon. He sent me this video of what it was like. It was unbelievable. If you didn't see it, they're running into this wind. It was raining so hard, and the wind was so strong, it was just throwing it in people's faces. And they were running not only against the hill and everything else, but literally into the wind and into the rain. It was crazy. And we had some great stories. First of all, Desiree Linden won the marathon for the women, the first U.S. woman to win the Boston Marathon since 1985. And she pulled away at Heartbreak Hill to win in 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 54 seconds. But then there's this wonderful story of the runner-up on the women's side in the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, really incredible. Sarah Sellers. And basically a headline, an article about her is, who the heck is Boston Marathon runner-up Sarah Sellers anyway? Turns out she's a nurse from Arizona. The full-time nurse. She ran in college. She ran pretty well in college, broke her foot, I think, at the end of it and had to miss a couple of years of running. Basically got herself, a pair of $90 New Balance shoes. New Balance 1400s, $90. She ran this thing.
It's only her second marathon.
Her husband came with her. I had other family members that ran it as well. Crossed the finish line. She had no idea she came in second place. None at all. Had to be told. And with that, oh, by the way, she wins $75,000. Her second marathon, she came in second in the Boston Marathon. She was looking to be in the top 15 for American women to qualify for the Olympic trials for the marathon.
Congratulations.
Second overall in the Boston Marathon. Just an incredible story.
Don't think she's going to be paying for those New Balance sneakers anytime in the near future now. You can stash that $75,000 away for something else and focus on being a freak of nature, because clearly that is where this woman resides.
Yeah, in an interview with the Boston Globe, she said the whole thing felt surreal. I didn't even know it was a possibility. I was trying to ask officials what place I was in. I had no idea when I crossed the finish line. That actually is the most unusual thing about this, because normally when you're that far in front of the rest of the field, you have, I guess, more experienced marathoners would, because they have a judge of who they've seen on the course, who they've passed, who they haven't passed. But she was so oblivious. Larry Cole was a defensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys many, many years ago, and they had a substitute quarterback come in named Clint Longley and won a game by throwing 2 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter on Thanksgiving to beat the Washington Redskins, and he called it a victory for the uncluttered mind. It seems like this might have been another victory for an uncluttered mind. If you're not thinking about all that stuff and you just go out there and do it, sometimes good things happen.
This is probably the only place you can go running the marathon in this condition, right? You have to put yourself in that mental place. You always talk about the places guys have to bring themselves before a football game, trying to go to some place where you can go out there and run yourself into other human bodies for a couple of hours. To go and run 26.2 in those kind of weather conditions yesterday, it would make sense and probably be beneficial to your overall health to try and just put yourself as an absolute blank slate.
She said the best case scenario going in, I thought maybe that she'd win enough money to cover the trip out here. Well, unless they flew in a Learjet and stayed in the Taj Mahal, it'll more than cover that. Here's the best part. She's a Utah native. She's going back to work tomorrow.
Oh,
one day.
Incredible.
Well, this is like the goalie that came in and filled in for the Blackhawks.
Scott Foster.
That's the day you want to go into work, is the day after all this.
Get a load of me.
Go ahead here. I got back slaps for days, everyone. You're not doing any work. It's just a bunch of praise. That's the best day to be in work.
So congratulations to her. Then how about an incredible story of perseverance?
Yeah.
Here's this, reading on Twitter. For 15.5 miles, my wife Mary ran in the heavy wind and torrential rain in the worst of marathon conditions in a quest to complete her first marathon. At that point, her body began to shiver uncontrollably, her lips turned purple, and because of her compromised immune system, her doctors instructed her to stop running in the rain should this happen. The rain is now stopped. This is way later. And the dry clothes we now have on, we are at the Dunkin' Donuts where she stopped running at 4 p.m. We will now finish Mary's journey and hit the finish line together.
That's fantastic.
So they waited till the rain stopped after the race, got in dry clothes, and went and finished the marathon from the spot where she went off the course. That's amazing.
It is. To me, congratulations to the winners in the Sarah Sellers story and Desiree Linden, but some of the guys who just find a way to finish.
Yep.
Some of the runners that find a way they're the most inspiring of all.
Well, the training that you did for it, you want to get that finish and to run through that has to just be ridiculous, incredible.
Guessing America really does run on Duncan.
Hey now.
There you go.
Wow.
Look at you.
Golic.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
And Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Ryan! I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
By the way, Dan Stanzik, our fine producer, is back. He's
Bad boy, double question guy.
Wait, Golic?
Oh,
yeah.
all people?
No, my question?
Well, we'll see what you do today. 4 guests today.
Dude, just go away.
All right, we're talking to Jay Billis. And as far as Notre Dame, they beat Pitt yesterday. Bonzie Colson is back. They're 13-4 with him. We've talked about that situation. They play Virginia Tech. If they win here, do you think they're in? Are they in anyway, or what do you think their path is?
That was a statement before a question. The question only came in at the end. SportsCenter brought to you by 1-800-Flowers.com. Surprise a friend or loved one today with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. Just go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN.
All right, Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And one of the things I like about this show is I learn things. I learn things almost every day. For example, I was not aware to what the limitations are and are not when it comes to winning a Pulitzer Prize.
Right.
I had never even thought that the idea was that you could win a Pulitzer Prize for some of the things that people have won Pulitzer Prizes for. In fact, we have something that happened now that has never happened before in the history of Pulitzer Prizes.
Kendrick Lamar, for his album Damn, has won the Pulitzer Prize for music, making history as the first non-classical or jazz artist to win this award. It's pretty impressive. He's incredibly successful commercially. Usually it's reserved for critically acclaimed classical acts and much less familiar, with the pop charts. The guy has had, a couple of dozen songs in the top 40, certainly some number ones as well. Commercially, as I said, he's off the charts right now, but that's usually not what you're seeing for the Pulitzer Prize.
Right. Pulitzer Prize is normally thought of as a journalism award. From 19th century Joseph Pulitzer, Hungarian-born, an intense, indomitable figure, was the most skillful of newspaper publishers. His innovative New York World and the St. Louis Post-Dispatch reshaped newspaper journalism. So you normally think of the Pulitzer Prize as something awarded in journalism.
Right.
In fact, this is a very rare thing that it's been given out to musicians. They've had special honors before.
Right. They have. To the likes of Bob Dylan, Duke Ellington, George Gershwin, Hank Williams. As you mentioned, they have done that before. Also, in 97, Wynton Marsalis became the first jazz act to win the Pulitzer Prize for music. What the Pulitzer Board said about Kendrick Lamar, the 30-year-old, again, won the prize for his album Damn. The Pulitzer Board said the album is a virtuosic, as am I saying that?
Virtuosic.
Virtuosic?
Yeah.
That's how much I know. That's why I'll never win this award. Song collection that captures the modern African-American life. He wins $15,000. What's his net worth?
About $800 million.
Yeah. Get Kendrick Lamar's net worth. This will look better on the resume than the actual prize money that you're going to win for this.
Yeah, look, I was about to say, the title means more than the cash.
Yeah, I would say so. Now, Bob Dylan won
what a Nobel Prize.
A Nobel Prize
for literature.
And he did not go to the ceremony to accept the award.
Yeah.
Now, we have no idea, what the deal is here because you or I will never be part of the Pulitzer Prize or know anything about
there's no chance
any kind of ceremony or anything. Will Kendrick Lamar go to it, maybe perform and accept the award?
In shocking turn of events, researcher Brett would like to add something to the program.
Of course he would.
Kendrick Lamar reportedly made $30 million last year.
$30 million
last year.
Last year.
Okay.
This would be a very small fraction of that.
Yeah, so $15,000 in prize money. Wow.
Well, hold on a minute. Stanzik now is stoking the fires here. Brett believes that Bob Dylan is overrated. Brett, is that true?
I don't think he's overrated. I think he's bad.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's a hot take. That's a hot take from you.
That's a horrific take.
Bob Dylan is bad. In what way is he bad?
He is not aesthetically pleasing to listen to.
He's not aesthetically pleasing. Well, if you
he doesn't look good to you, what about his music?
I was about to say,
music. The ears are part of the aesthetic.
If you're basing Bob Dylan's work on aesthetics, then you don't understand Bob Dylan at all.
His lyrics are nice, but it's music ultimately, and I don't like listening to it. I don't think it's nice to listen to.
Hey, Brett, the times they are changing. Just so you know, need to get on with it.
You're fired.
Yeah. Also, well, he has a segment to do Wednesday, but after that, we'll fire him.
After that,
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
Florida man Jeff Darlington with us, our fine NFL reporter. And you had a story last time you were up here a couple of weeks ago about Rob Gronkowski leaning towards coming back and playing. But a couple of weeks later, he's not at the beginning of off-season workouts for the Patriots. Neither is Tom Brady, who's in Qatar, I believe, dominating TB12 Worldwide Enterprises.
Riding camels, the whole deal. Yeah.
So the fact that we haven't heard anything definitive still yet from Gronkowski, what are the odds that that retirement thing is still in play?
I would say it's the same as it was based on the conversation I'm having, that he is continuing to prepare.
So it's the talking head, same as it ever was?
Same as it ever was, exactly. And I would say that he still is preparing his body to play in 2018. He's still telling people close to him that it's still pretty much 2018 for him. But this is a situation where, I think he wants to get away from the facility, wants to clear his head physically, mentally, wants to get himself back to a place. Because one of the things that was explained to me is that he knows if he's going to continue with the Patriots, he has to be ready for the grind. That Bill Belichick is not going to somehow change his ways and make things easier on him. Now, the one thing I will add to this, though, is that he still is an underpaid tight end. And if Drew Rosenhaus calls the Patriots very soon to talk about, hey, my guy will come back.
Pay my boy.
That should not surprise anybody.
For those who don't know, 2 years left on the deal. I believe a little over $8 million he's supposed to make this year, and $10 million, some right in that area for next year. Here's my thought on this, Jeff. Tell me what you think. Is there does seem to be, we want to sit there and call it cracks in the armor for a team that has won a ton of Super Bowls and just had a loss in a Super Bowl, so they were still there. You heard the Danny Amendola interview about Belichick's the best coach, but sometimes he can be a blankety blank and how hard it is. So everybody's starting to go, whoa. My thought is, I think Gronk coming back to play. Brady is definitely coming back to play, and Bill Belichick's going to be the coach. Once they all walk in that building, to me, that talk is over because
you sign up for it.
They all know Bill Belichick is not going to change. So if you step back in that building, you know it's going to be the grind that it's normally been, you've chosen to go back to it.
If and when they step back into that building, though. And that's the one area that I think that there is some empowerment right now. Someone asked me about the idea of a mutiny. Is this a mutiny being led by Tom Brady? I would not take it that far, but I would say this. If guys are feeling empowered by the actions and behavior of Tom Brady, saying, hey guys, I'm going to take a stand because it's not just about money, it's about treatment, and it's ultimately about, pick one or the other. If you're going to grind on these guys that hard, as Bill Belichick often does, at some point, you might have to wind up paying him. Now, this has worked for years and years and years, and some people would say, well, why change it now? People change. I mean, they got a 41-year-old quarterback now. He's not a 22-year-old, 23-year-old guy. So I could see behavioral change within the organization, and that's going to make a hard decision for Bill Belichick.
I get it. I definitely get it. The attitude changes, but I still, my thought is if they walk back in that building, who else would think about a mutiny outside of Gronk or Brady? And I know you didn't mean a mutiny.
Yes.
I know, but even
you did it. You said ESPN's Jeff Darlington says there's a mutiny with New England.
Even any
lock it down.
Even any other players in there thinking, yeah, we shouldn't be treated this way. I mean, Damian Woody sat in here and said, I spent 4 years there, won a couple of Super Bowls, and it was some of the hardest stuff I ever did, and I knew they weren't going to pay me, so I went somewhere else.
That's right.
And everybody's sitting there and pointing to, saying, they looked across the field and they saw, how much fun the Eagles are having.
Come on.
That was the Eagles' first Super Bowl.
Thank you.
Okay, the Eagles aren't in the NFC Championship game every year like the Patriots are. You have it great. It is hard work. I'm not going to say it's not hard work, but man, you play the game to get the payoff, and they were getting the payoff.
It's going to be very important and difficult for people to treat all of these situations uniquely, whether it's Rob Gronkowski, Danny Amendola. Danny Amendola is one of dozens of guys who did exactly that, and the Patriots moved on and charged on and won more Super Bowls. Tom Brady is a very different beast in this regard. And that one, I think that we're going to have to watch extremely closely, because there is an assumption that this will all go away and it will all be fine. And for the most part, that is a strong possibility, because when these guys do get in a room, they recognize that we're really good at this together and we need to charge on. But I would not dismiss this situation. I would not just assume, because the Patriot way has succeeded in the past, that it will continue to do just that.
Jeff Darlington, our NFL ESPN reporter, is with us in studio. You're right, but we're talking about this situation here with New England that has never. We're talking about a 17-year stretch.
Right.
This has never happened, and that's why, Mike, I think what you said is so significant. Yes, will occasionally a Philadelphia win their first ever Super Bowl? Absolutely. Will there be a year like Super Bowl 50? Where Peyton Manning on his last legs has this unbelievable defense that carries them to a championship. But let's just look at what happened before that.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 49, the Patriots won. Super Bowl 50, they had to get through the Patriots to get there. Super Bowl 51, the Patriots come back and win. And Super Bowl 52, the Patriots had a chance to win that one. They're in it every year. Yeah. They're in it every year because of this dynamic that is set up in place. And to think that a guy like Bill Belichick is going to change that because a couple of people are barking at him, forget it,
but
man.
But how has that happened? Has it happened also due to the fact that Tom Brady is back there taking less money?
Absolutely.
Yep. And
There's
doing a really good job.
There's a formula.
But they've all signed up for it.
Right.
So the idea that suddenly they're going to change the dynamic 17 years in, I think is fool's gold.
I guess that's my point. When they all decide, and I think they all will, these three we're talking about, we know Bill's coaching, we know Tom's quarterback, and he wants quarterback till he's 80. Gronk's the only question mark. I still think he's going back. I guess that's back to my point, Jeff, again, is once they all get back in the building, then they all know what the game plan is. I don't think there's any – I can't believe in my mind that Tom Brady or Gronk thinks that Bill Belichick is going to change one bit. And if they step back in that building, they know exactly what the script is going to be every single day through that season.
I think that is very accurate, and that is partly why both guys aren't in the building right now, is that they are clearing their head and their mind and their bodies. And continuing to, and the other thing is, there's a lot being made of Alex Guerrero, as there should be. That is a very
TB12,
strong.
right? For those that know, Alex Guerrero, Tom's trainer, he has the whole TB12 experience, and Bill Belichick was upset that some of the players were going to Alex Guerrero instead of the Patriots training staff.
Right.
And that's a legitimate thing, by the way, if you're the head coach.
What is very unique about this situation this year as we move forward, just something to watch, something to keep in mind. In 2010, when Brady was dealing with a contract situation, stayed away from the off-season program, he was out in Los Angeles with his firstborn child, spending more time with family out there. This time around, he'll be in Boston throughout this off-season program. The TB12 facility is about 5 football fields away from Gillette Stadium. So, like, when I'm up there covering games, I walk past the TB12 facility to get a coffee. Like, that's how close it is to the stadium. And him and Gronkowski are going to be over there. If that doesn't give you some sense of the dissension and frustration, I don't know how to better symbolize the seriousness of this situation.
Look, that is pretty amazing it being that close.
I mean, Seth Wickersham in that article that the Patriots said is not true. It's not true. They found a couple of things they didn't like about that had maybe been disputed, but the overall tone of that article that came out was true. This has been a very and Robert Kraft alluded to it as they got to the Super Bowl. It's been a very difficult year for them. By the way, on the contract numbers for Gronk, according to our fine researcher and occasional contributor to the show, Brett, Gronk is averaging 9 per year on his current deal. He'll average 9.5 per year over the next 2. Jimmy Graham is ahead of him at 10. Travis Kelce and Jordan Reed are both at 9.3. So, I mean, he's really right there, except for Jimmy Graham, whose deal is more recent, and you could certainly make a very compelling case that Rob Gronkowski should be paid more than Jimmy Graham at this point.
Here's the one thing I'll say. If you're going to grind on guys, and this is a sentiment that talking to all these different people that I've spoken to, if you're going to grind on guys, you sometimes are going to have to pay them for it. And in this case, let's mark this down. I would guess that Gronkowski is being paid more than that number by the start of training camp if he is still with the Patriots.
Really?
If he's still playing for the Patriots. I say they're not going to trade him if he's still playing for the Patriots.
We'll see. Let's just let this thing play out.
So we got a mutiny, and now we got a trade of Rob Gronkowski from Jeff Darlington.
All I'm saying is that
his hot takes are stronger than Brett-hating Bob Dylan right now.
What we need to remember here is that everybody is trying to create they're trying to decide. Fans out there are all trying to decide what's going to happen based on what they've seen before. When I think that it's very important for everybody to throw out assumptions and just let this thing play out and not just assume that Gronkowski is going to come back without getting paid. I'm not saying that's what it's about, but I think that there is this preconceived notion that the Patriot way will just continue to prosper.
We have 4 hours to fill. We can't just let things play out.
Yeah.
You know, we got to fill it with assumptions.
Let me explain
and
how
the
this
fact
works.
that Jeff said that Gronk's going to get traded and there's a mutiny going on.
We've got that on the bottom line scroll. We're putting it on the top of ESPN.com. It's going out as a blast news alert.
So let's go. We know you just messed around. Let's go with another pass catcher, Des Bryant. What's the market going to be for him? Not only by teams, but by money you think he can get a month after free agency started?
It hasn't been great. And of course, you could argue, is it the Cowboys that did him a disservice by cutting him, or is it his agent who didn't have a signing bonus in his contract for the first day of free agency so that decision had to be made sooner, right? But there really isn't a great market for him right now. And whether it's I've talked to some general managers, some coaches, even some franchise quarterbacks about, like, you want this guy, you're gonna try to get him in the building, and there's really not a ton of sentiment in Dez's favor. And one quarterback told me that they feel like his ability at this point does not match some of the antics that you also have to deal with him. And a lot of times there's that sliding scale, like an Odell Beckham. It's like, yeah, we'll deal with that.
But you can get him on the cheap, though, can't you?
That's the thing. Now it feels like you can get him on the cheap. So all of a sudden, a team like the Giants, who I thought would have to reserve all their money for Odell Beckham, maybe he's like, oh, wait, we can get him in. We can get him in for, I don't want to guess, but
a lot cheaper
less.
Than
$16.5 million. Yeah. Look, he was never making that dollar figure. Let's be clear about that.
And then
after what we've seen for the last few years, he was never going to make that.
Is he going to get 10 though now? Like,
I don't know. It's a great question.
So
and the thought about the Giants, because he could be what they thought Brandon Marshall was going to be, which he isn't in New York. That would be an interesting thing.
And Dez is still. This is personal opinion. I spent some time with Dez, and he's like a fiery guy, but he's the most loyal soldier that you can get if you can get him into the right situation. So if there's a team out there that's looking at Des Bryant saying, man, I don't know about those antics. Like, if you just think about your locker room and if it can handle it, if you have the veteran presence to handle it, this could be a bit of a steal for a team.
Look, when he broke his foot in the first game of the 2015 season, when Tony Romo had that great comeback against the Giants on the Sunday night game, he waited around without anything on that foot to go ahead and congratulate Tony on living that game-winning drive. Look, you love the passion of Dez because it, in many ways, translates into the positive things. But at the end of the day, he's a physical receiver, not a speed receiver, and he's been banged up the last few years. And you wonder, okay, how much longer can the body play at that physical level? It's more about that than anything else, right?
How about Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about Des Bryant is, like, he needs a quarterback who's going to put the ball exactly where it needs to be. Like,
so Dez will catch it now in Green Bay.
Dez will catch it.
Dez will catch it now in Green Bay. That would be very interesting. And I can tell you that Aaron is looking around and saying, hey, guys,
it's time.
Help me out a little bit here. Help me out a little bit.
I don't have Jordy to throw to anymore. Give me someone.
Jimmy Graham and Des Bryant.
Throw me a bone, please. Throw me a bone. Florida man, Jeff Darlington.
Hey, thanks, Jeff.
Always good to see you. Appreciate it, man. Bring your sticks next time. Yeah. Well, it depends. We might get a foot. It's all my fault. Wow. I'm taking it. It's all my fault. I'm owning it. The yoke is on me.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
We wish nothing but the best for our very next guest.
Yes.
I'm telling you right now, the New York Knicks, you could take this as a threat if you want to.
Do you not understand how disgusted New Yorkers have become? We're sick and tired of it. The losing, the ineptitude, the dysfunctionality.
We're tired of it. We're just tired of it. We can't take it anymore. I'm not playing.
Who's going to be in front of those microphones every day? Who's going to be speaking to New Yorkers? Who's going to be galvanizing the troops that live in New York City that are looking for every excuse under the sun to legitimately support the Knicks?
Who's going to make you believe?
Well, we like to be subtle here on Golden.
Nobody matches that energy, I'll tell you that much.
That is our subtle way of Stephen A. Smith from First Take, and the Stephen A. Smith Show joins us. And, Stephen, before we get into anything else, I just want to say, and Golic's heard me say this about 100 times already, I one day in my life want to care about one thing as much as you seem to care about anything. And it's impressive, and a tip of the cap to you, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I can't believe that what y'all just played. I didn't know I sounded that bad, but damn it, I don't care because that's how I feel. These Knicks, I mean, they've taken years off of my life. I'm so disgusted with them. They better get this right. That's all I know. They better get this right.
Okay, well, let's start there then before we get to the games. Let's start there. We know the list of names being interviewed. You're saying they better get it right. In your opinion, what is right?
I think Mark Jackson needs to be the next head coach for the New York Knicks. I think it's very, very simple. Jerry Stackhouse got a lot of promise, and I think that he'll do a great job whenever he becomes an NBA coach. They're about to interview him. Doc Rivers is established. He's been in Boston. He's been in Orlando. He's been with the Clippers. But in the same breath, again, you know, he may stay with the Clippers. But I think that someplace other than New York, you need a native New Yorker. I like David Fizdale a lot. He got holes in Memphis. I think he'll end up landing someplace. I'm not going to sniff at any of those guys who get selected, but the best candidate for this job is Mark Jackson, and it's not because of just the coaching. Mark Jackson could coach, there's no question. Doc Rivers has proven he could coach. David Fizdale has proven he could coach. Nobody, none of them, I believe, has the cachet to deal with New York and James Dolan the way Mark Jackson is, and that's what this comes down to. Mark Jackson is a guy, New York native, Queens native, former star at St. John's, rookie of the year with the New York Knicks, and more importantly, when he speaks, you believe him. And that matters because when you're dealing with an ownership like James Dolan, something has to give. It's not just about basketball. It's about the business of Madison Square Garden putting its tentacles on the basketball and hockey and everything in between, and it's been problematic for a bevy of coaches and executives that have come through this franchise, and it's proven to be too much for anybody to take because you ultimately elevate the level of indifference that becomes associated with this franchise. You just get to a point where you don't give a damn because it's helpless because James Dolan is there. Mark Jackson has the ability to eradicate all of that because he's the kind of person that can rally folks in New York and to get them to believe in something other than James Dolan ineptitude. And I think that's important. It's not just about basketball. It's about a spokesperson that isn't a player, somebody that's the face of the franchise that you have to listen to every single day. Steve Mills can't do that for you. Scott Perry, the GM, can't do that to you. Carmelo Anthony, when he was the star of the team, couldn't do that for you, nor can any player. It has to be the coach. And I believe that right man is Mark Jackson.
Stephen A. Smith with us. But to that point, Stephen A., dealing with James Dolan, is there anybody, do you think, that can actually do that effectively because of the track record we've seen?
I think that Mark Jackson is our last hope, to believe it or not. And I really mean that. I mean, listen, when Phil Jackson comes here, as great as Phil Jackson was, he was an 11-time champion. When you're falling asleep in practices, when your definition of a road trip is to be in L.A., okay, and or Montana, come on now. That's not somebody that's going to get the job done. This is an 11-time champion that couldn't even get Kevin Durant to sit down with him and have dinner. That's how bad it was. That needed Carmelo Anthony to try and recruit players and to let them know, send him word that they weren't thinking about coming to New York. That's not going to get it done. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it's just about having somebody that New Yorkers can rally around to make James Dolan uncomfortable enough to sit up there and say, okay, we're going to flow in this direction. This coach, I got the president that I want. He's got the GM that he wanted. Now to have a face of the organization that New Yorkers will give the benefit of the doubt to is incredibly important in this particular situation. The New York Knicks job is not just a basketball coaching job. It is far more than that. And Steve Mills has got to recognize that when he selects the next head coach of this franchise.
Talking to Stephen A. Smith, obviously First Take co-host, also with his own show on Stephen A. Smith Show, which today at 1:05 Eastern he will have Adam Silver on the show. So let's stay again off the court again before we go on. Kawhi Leonard not going to be playing in this playoff. San Antonio will be out of the playoffs soon. But looking forward, Kawhi Leonard, how much longer is he in San Antonio, and where would be a landing spot, do you think, when we all eventually think he'll be gone?
Believe it or not, it's looking bad right now. It's looking like he could end up being gone. I look at the San Antonio Spurs, and in terms of their body language, they're just apparent disposition. You just could feel this is a team that literally that I believe feels betrayed by Kawhi Leonard. They're not going to say that. They're not going to admit it, but I get the impression when you have a players meeting spearheaded by Tony Parker and they're asking you, are you coming back or not? Why are you having that meeting if you truly, truly believe a guy is hurt and can't play? Clearly, you have questions as to whether or not he can play. Clearly, you believe that there's something inside of him that could have given you something for this postseason. And the fact that he didn't do that, I think resonates. Steven Jackson coming on the air, former champion with the San Antonio Spurs. Some of those guys he played with, including Ginobili and Tony Parker. He said it for a fact. There's no way those guys approached Kawhi Leonard the way that they did without Popovich's okay. So Popovich had to give the okay. That's what he said. And then you saw Popovich last night. Did you hear how he raved about LaMarcus Aldridge? Listen to the words that he said. He doesn't complain. He just goes out there, no matter the situation or circumstances. He just goes out there and does his job and doesn't say a word. I don't think people will really appreciate what this man has had to work, what conditions this man has worked under this season, and he's just been an absolute joy and an absolute pleasure. You could hear that and hear him praising LaMarcus Aldridge. I also heard him basically saying, I wish that other players were like that. And that's what I got. That's what I got from it. So I think it speaks volumes.
It certainly does. Sometimes what you don't say, sometimes this is just as important as what you do say. So, Stephen A., with that in mind, how intertwined might this offseason be between Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James about where they may go and how that affects where someone else may go or where they may go together?
Man, who knows? I mean, with LeBron James, he's always got a plan, and we all know that. And him teaming with Kawhi, I certainly wouldn't rule it out definitively. What I will say is that people have to capitulate. People have to help out. And I got to wonder, how many people would be willing to do that? The Lakers clearly would be willing to do it if they could. But remember, Kawhi is under contract. He's not a free agent. So it'd have to be a trade that's facilitated in order to get him on board. Boston has assets. Philadelphia has assets. The Lakers have money, but how much assets do they have? You don't want to give up a Kyle Kuzma, Randall, Ingram, or whatever. You want to keep those guys intact, but you should be willing to give up at least a couple of those guys in order to get the caliber of a player like Kawhi Leonard, especially if it could also mean bringing LeBron on board as well. So you just can't rule out anything. Magic Johnson will have to work his magic. There's no question about it. And I got my eyes on the Lakers for this reason. You've got LeBron and Paul George in 2018. You've got Kawhi, you've got Kyrie, you've got Klay Thompson, Jimmy Butler in 2019. As far as I'm concerned, Magic Johnson had better get one, if not two of those players by 2019. And that's just the way I look at things right now.
All right, Stephen, on the court last night, we saw Miami get the road win. Dwayne Wade turn back the hands of time a little bit, have a big night in just 25 minutes. Joel Embiid didn't play, went to Instagram in his story and got a little profanity in there as well on how he thinks he's being treated there. How do you think this one plays out in this series?
I think that ultimately you'll see Joel Embiid back in the lineup. Yes, the Sixers are protective, but again, this is not his knee. This is not his foot. This is his eye. You got a mask for a reason, and the guy wants to play, and he wants to play badly. And if he believes the eye has improved enough where he should be allowed to play, it's something that he's going to push towards. If the Philadelphia 76ers had won last night, I think the possibility of him being in the lineup would be significantly dissipated. But because of the fact that they lost to Miami, and the series is now tied 1-1 going back to Miami, especially if Miami wins Game 3 on Thursday night, I think you could find yourself looking at a situation where Joel Embiid probably will be back by Saturday, regardless of what they say, because the Sixers have looked terrific. They won 17 straight, 16 to end the regular season, plus game one before losing last night. And they went from being a team that was just happy to be there to a team legitimately with championship expectations by virtue of looking at the Eastern Conference. If you sit down Joel Embiid when the dude is crying to play, and it doesn't have anything to do with his lower extremities as it pertains to his health, there is no reason why you shouldn't take a chance and put him in this series. He wants to play. He swears he's ready to play, and they need to put him back in there.
Well, right, but they also have to make sure that he's protected from himself, because, Stephen, every player wants to play. I mean, that's why you have the medical staff to make sure these guys aren't rushed back too soon.
Well, there's plenty of times where you've seen guys with broken noses, orbital bones, et cetera, put on a mask and get out there and play. It wouldn't be the first. Secondly, if he gets hurt again, the season is over. But in the same breath, you've got the entire off season to get him ready for next year. Again, if it's your knee or your ankle or your foot rather, which is derailed him in the past, that would be different. But again, with the mask being able to protect that orbital bone, along with the fact that it's the importance of the playoffs, this is what you play for. And I'm not saying you just put him out there just because he says he's ready. But if you've been contemplating when to bring him back, and let's say, for example, you said, okay, he's going to sit out the first round. That means you had every intention of him being ready by the second round. Well, the second round might be a week to 10 days later. So you let him come back 10 days earlier. I think that's a chance you take for an orbital bone that can be covered by a mask. My personal opinion.
It's Stephen A. with us on Golic and Wingo. So let's talk more about the game itself, Game 3 in Miami. Look, this is the most pressure-packed game that the Sixers are going to play in, 5, 6, 7 years? It's been a long time.
Yep.
And how much do we actually put into that 16-game winning streak just to end the regular season? Because take game one of the playoffs out of it, because obviously that's a quality opponent. Because they fattened up on those 16 games with a combined winning percentage of .437, the equivalent of a 35 or 36 win team. So how much do we really buy into that, and how much of that is them getting hot against an inferior opponent?
Before I watched game one of this series against Miami, I would have told you not much. But watching them in game one against Miami, here's why I've rethought it a bit. I watched the Philadelphia 76ers, and you forget Redick, Covington, Bellinelli, Zarek. These guys can really shoot the basketball, and this kid Anderson coming off the bench, and Markelle Fultz as well. So you've got 5 guys that can shoot perimeter shots, 6 guys that can score, with a 6'10" point guard. Without Joel Embiid on the floor, they beat Miami by 27, and it wasn't just because of the three. The biggest reason is because they can defend. They really, really get up in you, and that's the big thing. Watching them right now, you watch the Philadelphia 76ers, and you say, "My goodness, I didn't realize how well they can defend the basketball." And they have size at every position outside of J.J. Redick on the floor. They literally can put guys 6'5", 6'6", and above on the court at every single position to defend. And when you can do that in the playoffs, you always have a chance. And that's why I give Philadelphia credit where credit is due in that regard. They are legitimate because they can defend.
All right, Stephen, tomorrow, Cleveland get game 2 against the Pacers, already down 1-0 at home, losing the home game. LeBron doesn't take a shot in the first quarter. Certainly we've seen him start games before where he tries to get everybody else involved and nobody hit a shot. Lou wants him to get more aggressive. How do you see the rest of this series playing out? I see LeBron get aggressive.
Listen, if one thing you got to give LeBron credit for the most part, with the exception of a poor performance against the Boston Celtics back in 2010 before he decided to take his talents to South Beach. With the exception of that, and I guess it was a Game 3 of the NBA Finals against Dallas, he usually goes down swinging. He'll get his. And I think this is one of those situations where he's completely comfortable in his own skin. He's a 3-time champion, has been to 7 consecutive NBA Finals. he's recognized universally as the best player in the world. I think he's one of those guys that's like, okay, this team might not be good enough, but I'm going to get mine, and I'm going to go down swinging. And I think that's what's going to happen. The Indiana Pacers might be on par with the Cleveland Cavaliers, but they don't have LeBron. They got a star in Oladipo who has arrived. Make no mistake about that. But he's not LeBron. And I think you're going to see LeBron ultra-aggressive tonight, reminding the world as to why he's the best in the world. And I think he's going to come out, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he had another triple-double tonight, except this time instead of 24 points, it'll be more like 44.
Well, that would be exactly what Ty Lue would be looking for. Stephen A. Smith with us from First Take in the Stephen A. Smith Show. Stephen A., again, you'll have Commissioner Adam Silver on with you at 1:05 today. What's the one thing you want to get out of the commissioner today?
Well, this whole tanking issue, listen, I have been adamantly opposed or vehemently opposed to the whole process in Philadelphia. It disgusts me when people even bring it up. But you're going to have situations where teams are looking at the Philadelphia 76ers and they want to know what's the disincentive to tanking, because look at how it's working out for them. And so that's one of the issues that I'm going to talk to them about. There's a bevy of issues that I intend to talk to them about, but that's certainly one of them, and I'm looking forward to having the commissioner on my show.
All right, Stephen A., we look forward to hearing that later on today on ESPN Radio. Thanks for being with us, my friend.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, guys.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.